Hey peeps, Matt's Mox here. Typically, I don't just make a random video like this, but what happened, it was different. So you're gonna see by the video title how Initial D saved my life. Now, you might be wondering, first, what is Initial D? Secondly, get to the point, asshole. Well, first, I just want to explain quickly. Initial D is a anime based on Japanese car culture in the 1990s and drifting, specifically around Takumi Fujiwara and his life in Japan during the 1990s, and of course driving cars. Now, Acts 1 through 4 have had a lot of useful information about them, surprisingly, because the animators paid important attention to detail, as well as they had a wealth of drift films from the time, which, of the roads there. So this is what happened. I was coming off my normal exit to go home. I'm not going to tell you where I live, but there's a sharp curve, and there's one of those concrete wall things that you see along U.S. highways. But it's a sharp curve coming off. It's a 60-mile-an-hour section, and I was pulling off into the off ramp, and I usually try to slow down to 45, but there was this real asshole on the road, so I was going slightly faster than typical. And then I looked ahead. I realized there was a big pile of ice and slush that was on the roads. Either a plow missed it or something else happened. I don't know the full story. However, I hit it at about 55 miles an hour, which, well, even at the speed that I normally would be going, if I hit that, the results are bad. I lost complete control of my car. At that moment, I just kind of snapped out of it, and because I was thinking about something else. I was thinking like this silly mob story, or it was like this mafios. But I then realized what I had to do at that exact moment, because my brain immediately flashed back to Initial D. And I knew that if I didn't do anything quickly, I'd go 50 miles an hour sideways, because I turned sideways because of the sharp curve. I'd go 50 miles an hour sideways into one of those concrete barricades, and if you've ever seen an accident where that's happened, you know that's not good. I would have flipped, and the car would have been totaled. So, I put both feet, one on each pedal. My car's an automatic, but I can still drive it in manual position, and I have a proper e-brake that allows me to do a little bit more than normal. And, well, I just like in the sharp curves that Takumi faced on his own, home road, I was able to catch hold doing sideways and managed to get the car around that first part of the curve. But once I was able to do that, because of, again, the same slush and my fight against it, my car started turning the other way, which was towards a ditch, because it's sort of a really weird fluctuating curve radius. And, I managed to get my one wheel set, one of the rear wheels, into a little bit of that curvature there, and I use it somewhat to control the twist of my car, sort of into an S. The S formation. I don't know the full terms. I'm literally recording this only a couple minutes or so after I got home, finally. But I managed to regain control somewhat, and I got my speed down to around 35 miles an hour, but I still wasn't out of it, because I hit another slush patch right after it, and it continued to swerve until I got to the more flattened out area where there was big piles of salt and rock. I managed to throw my car into reverse and four-wheel lock because I just had enough grip that I was able to use it to, well, much like how a train works, managed to bring the car to a near stop within a couple of seconds, which, of course, the protagonist wouldn't do that, but at the same time, I'm not him. I'm not a good driver, really. I just watched a lot of anime. And, well, I managed to bring the car to a stop right towards about halfway down the off ramp. I just kind of sat there for a moment, recollected my thoughts. I was dead silent. There was a really shitty song on the radio, and I just slowly started the car back up. Hazards on, four-wheel lock. I just proceeded down the road very slowly, and eventually I got home. And I parked the same time my sister came home from work as well, because I went to work. And ironically, I parked right next to her, and he was there, and came out of my car and looked. I didn't have much damage, thankfully, but you could still see where I got pelted by the salt when I was doing my funky maneuver. And I walked home, and once she went upstairs, I started recording this video. But that's what happened, and I'm gonna post this right after I'm done recording. I'm still been shocked, but the moral of the story is, anime literally saved my life at that moment, and it's gonna be a bit before I drive a lot again, because you don't typically deal with this kind of stuff, and spurred a moment memory to an early 2000s show about the 90s. Really did a lot, but that's what happened.